morning and welcome to It's Your Life, Own It. My name is Marisa Bludorn. I am your host. I'm the editor-in-chief of Own It Magazine and Publishing, a self-development, self-awareness, and self-mastery platform. I'm so excited to be with you here on Motivational Moments. Now, our topic for today is the art of discipline. I want to go over some of the things. The theme is develop the self-control necessary to achieve your goals and maintain consistency. Key concepts: habit formation, delayed gratification, overcoming procrastination. Focus is building strong habits, routines, and a disciplined approach to work and life. Taking center stage and owning it with me is Coach Tiffany Nathaniel X. Ross.
Hey.
Nathaniel, we thought you went back to sleep over there in Thailand.
Nope, I'm here.
Oh, awesome. So we are talking about the art of self-discipline. And we're talking about it from a different perspective, not from the perspective of that strong discipline in the sense of mastery like that. But the importance of why self-discipline is so important to living a fulfilling life. Why it's important for us as individuals to hold ourselves accountable to the degree of making sure that we make the quality decisions, set the right habits so that we get the outcomes that are going to generate and produce and reinforce fulfillment, happiness, joy. And so we just released, I'm going to start with Coach Tiffany. We just released your book on Unsnap, your anthology that really speaks to the importance of the power of the pause, as you mentioned, and promoting the book and the concept. It's so important. The self-discipline is so important for us to be awakened to, not just doing it, but being intentional, strategic, and awakened, right, by this importance of being self-disciplined. So, Tiffany, I'm going to start with you. Talk about that. And what made you go into the Unsnap book project? Segue with that.
Well, man, thank you so much for having me. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Nate. It's so good to see you. You know what? Having self-discipline is everything. And that Unsnapped came about because I was really being very conscious and aware of the things that are going on around me these days. People are doing some just crazy stuff. They're not thinking before they do or before they say, and it's creating so much chaos around us. So, I started just thinking about situations that I had been in life and where I had gotten to the brink of like, ooh, like my chapter in the book is the color, the orange, the orange is not my color, right? Because I'm not trying to go to jail for some of my actions that have been in my head. So that's where the power of the pause comes in. You have to pause for just a moment before you do some unthinkable thing or say something. This is in relationships. This is in business. This is even with yourself when you are, just in a situation that you can't deal with. If you don't think about, something before you do it, I mean, you could lose your life
Yes.
in that sense, So Unsnapped is really just individuals coming together that have gotten to that point of almost no return, but they had the grace to be able to just pause for a moment, take a deep breath, ground, and be able to speak better and be able to show up better. So I live my life being unsnapped, and being conscious and aware of the way I am and having that discipline, because I remember myself back in the day. I remember myself saying things and doing things that really I shouldn't have. And discipline, even I'll segue into, me being in health and wellness. You have to be disciplined in the things that you put in your body, in the movement that you make every day. If you're not disciplined in your movement, you will lose it.
Mhm.
If you're not disciplined in the things that you put in your body, we regenerate every 7 years. So guess what? The things that we put in are the things that are going to come out later on. So we have to be disciplined in all the things that we do. So that's all I got right now.
And that's good. That is very, very good. And as you were speaking in regards to what we're putting in, and that discipline and things like that, and just being conscious, be intentional with, if you want energy, then you have to eat food that generate and that influence, that reinforce, that generate energy. So you have to do that. The first thing that came to my mind was your sound balls and
Yeah.
the art of this meditation and talking about getting grounded. The more, so I shared publicly because I wanted to create a sense of consciousness of what
Mhm.
fasting and praying does for someone. So when you fast and when you pray, when you fast, first of all, it really brings your flesh under subjection. So where you would have all this energy and extra energy to do all of this other stuff that is not high value, because the real
Mhm.
thing about discipline is how are you valuing things? What is
Right.
the value point of your decision making? What is the value point of what it would cost you to lose it? What are the value points of the consequences? When you start looking at value points, what's valuable to you, you start
Mhm.
beginning to do things differently. So when you fast, right, you are slowing your energy level down at the beginning. You're slowing your energy level down, and then you're now conscious, is this even worth the battle? Right? No, this is not. So your whole mindset, disposition, your energy becomes calmer and calmer and calmer when you fast and you pray and you submit to a disciplined action. And so their sound balls just brought that,
Yeah.
just brought that to me. Meditation brought that to me as you were speaking. And I know we're going to segue over to Nathaniel. We're going to let him into this conversation among the women and segue in, have him come in. And because him and I talk about it often, is about what's our conversations. And when you're snapped, when you've snapped, I believe that it's also as the result of the conversations that you had in your upbringing,
Right.
self-regulation, boundaries, understanding ethics and etiquette, right? When
Mhm.
you speak a certain way, who you're speaking to, when is it appropriate? And Nathaniel and I always have these conversations about what are we talking about in our homes? What are
Mhm.
our regular conversations? Because that also reinforces how we value self discipline, how we are aware of self discipline. Are we even aware of this ability that we have to self regulate? And so, Nathaniel, with that being said, what's on your mind?
There's a whole lot going on. We always talk about transparency, and it's interesting that this the conversation that we're having tonight because I've just started over the last 3 weeks using a Rife machine, which regulates frequencies and it heals the body or different things within the body based on the frequency in which whatever it is that's ailing you. Um, and for me, uh, we're talking about discipline, and what I have found is that you go through cycles of being, you're disciplined and you're undisciplined, and then you're disciplined,
Right.
and it's moving levels and levels and levels. So right now, from a transparency place, I am not disciplined, but I'm aware of it, right? And that's the important thing, is to be
Right.
aware of when you're not disciplined, and then
Mhm.
having the tools to take the necessary steps to get back into the discipline, being disciplined, so that you can move to the next level.
Right.
And if
Yeah.
you understand it, if you can step outside of yourself and you can see that, you can make that movement, um, and it's quite rewarding. So I'm doing
Yeah.
what I need to do in terms of equalizing and balancing all the frequencies within my body, as well as my mind and spirit.
Yeah.
Um, and just elevate and we'll elevate to the next level and move from there in the second part of this year.
Mhm. And it's also important for us to understand that there's a balance, right? So it's a
Mm-hmm.
time when a lack of discipline is appropriate. It's when you're
Yeah.
resting. It's allowing your body to rest, and that's something I'm so glad that you shared and all that transparency. Because to be honest with it, it's your life. Own it. It's all about owning the good, the bad, the ugly, and indifferent
Right.
thing it is about looking at your life and really, really doing the introspective work. You can't do introspective work if you're not keeping it real with yourself, because then you just put it down. You
Yeah.
just keep living a life of falsehood, right? Because
Right.
the only way to get better is to get real. And it's also true that you have to have a space where there is a certain level of a lack of discipline. When you're in rest, you have to rest. And I think that that's where our frequencies get off. We let too many um, uh, external influence our internal decision making and behavior. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what it is all about, is owning it. And you are the CEO of your life.
Right.
It's not a cute statement. It's not trying to be trendy. It's about being serious. You are the CEO. You got to make these executive decisions for yourself, and you have to know how to navigate through external, suggestions and influences, and
Mm-hmm.
to also be able to regulate them and kind of assess and address them from what are your true, pure, intentional internal systems and how you think and what you value. Does that get in alignment with external? And if it doesn't, then you have to buck external and go with internal influences and internal value systems. And that's why it's important for us to know ourselves. We
Right.
have got to know ourselves so that when things come out from the external society, and you talked about how Coach Tiffany, when you first came on, you said, hey, I'm looking at all the things that are happening around us and the behaviors. And it's easy to say, well, they're doing it. So if what is it, take the path of least resistance, you're going to
Right.
do the easier thing. When you're undisciplined or you lack awareness or consciousness, you're going to do the easy thing. But when you are self-aware, when you are conscious, you are more strategic, and you will say, does that work for me? And is that going to give me the results that I'm looking for? Or is that ultimately, like you said, orange is not your color? Is
Right.
it going to make me have the results that I'm not going to like later? And it's so important for that area of our lives to always be in a certain level of discipline, but to give ourselves the grace to not be perfect, because the other extreme is we're so busy being perfect that we bring this stress on us.
Right.
We bring this imbalance of our energy levels and our frequencies, and then we're wondering why we're in a state of a form of depression. We're in a
Right.
state of lowlessness. We don't feel worthy, but because we've allowed all of these external, ideologies, methodologies, approaches to come in and then govern our behavior, our decision making, and how we feel, to take over, because we don't have
Mm-hmm.
that level of self awareness and self worth.
Right. Right.
And so you're doing, Tiffany,
So
because everybody's transparent. Okay, you wanted to say
Oh,
something.
go ahead, Nate.
if you before you switch subjects, just off of what you said about the perfection out there, people need to stop looking at these little snapshots on social media, because they're only showing you what's happening right at that particular 60
A little
seconds
bit.
of their
Right.
life, and most of that is not most of that is fake.
Right.
um, and people need to get real. Life is real, and like you say, you
Mm-hmm.
need to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And
Absolutely.
anybody that anyone that is successful, we have failed, and we have failed miserably, but we've
Yes.
gotten back up and we do what we have to do in order to regain our success or to take our success to another level. So stop with all this perfection and looking at these snippets out there and think, oh, I'm going to do this and become successful overnight. And the other thing is the path of least resistance. There's a positive and a negative to it.
Mm,
So the path of least resistance means you get exactly what everybody else gets. You got to take the rugged road. If you're going to be a leader, you're going to have to go down the path, that rugged road, to create the new path to where it is that you want to get to, and then let others follow you. So I just wanted to put that balance out there.
Yeah, it's so true. And I hear women, and specifically women, more so than men. And I also too want to make sure that everyone understands my position. I do not like to gender assign, because I believe that pretty much the real basic difference between men and women is that one, they're men and women, but then the other one is that men have natural strength in their body, but men are emotional and
right.
women are emotional.
Yep.
Women have feelings, men have feelings. But I want to say this, that women, in their communities have a tendency to have that vulnerability of having the appearance of a lack of perfection. Any
Mhm.
flaw, any shortcoming, there's a tendency to freak out, like among the mass of women. And I just want to say, you got to get yourself out of there, out of
That's
that
right.
area. You got to buck back the system. That's so important to preserve your uniqueness and what's more important to you. What's more important to you is why you were put here on the earth, not
Right.
how perfect you look like or appear to be anyone. I have a lot of folks that love me. They always want me to look the best and show up the best. But let me tell you something. That's not my priority. My priority is, did you hear what I said? Because if you miss my message, you're missing the point. And
Mhm.
so I'm not worried about my hair being perfect. I'm not worried about my makeup being perfect. If my earring falls off because I wear clips, let it fall off. I could care
Right.
less if I trip or
Right.
if I fall or anything like that. I remember teaching a class for Toastmasters with youth, and one of the kids was struggling with speaking, and I told him, I said, when you're up in the front, you own that space. You're the boss of that space. And the only way that you could feel embarrassed or awkward is if you accept that. I said, remember,
Mhm.
everybody has a bad hair day. Everybody has a zit on their face. Everybody has something where they sneeze and something is on their face,
Mhm.
still left off. Everyone has that experience. I said, and if you realize that everyone has that experience and there's nothing wrong with it, it's just a matter of cleaning up your face and just saying, hey, it's a bad hair day. What the heck?
Right.
You own that space and you don't have to give that up for any reason. Um,
Mhm.
it's maturity. It's about maturity and understanding that everyone has that moment of awkwardness. Everyone has that low moment, but it doesn't matter. It's just a moment. It's not a lifetime and it's not forever. And when I explain that to that young person and to the room, the kids got it
Yeah.
because of the maturity level. They got it, and he took ownership of that space that he was in, recognizing that he does not have to give into the feeling of being embarrassed, the
Mhm.
feeling of being awkward, that
Right.
he pressed through that to get to his authenticity right there at that very moment. He does not have to wait, he doesn't have to run in shame, he does not have to do any of that. That he or she can stay in that moment and gain back their power. They don't have to give that power to being imperfect. And I
Right.
think that's so important with unsnap. Unsnap means that even though I have the right to go off, I am choosing the right, like Nathaniel said, to be the leader, to be
Right.
vulnerable, to say, hey, this is a bad situation. And although I have the right, I'm going to be the one who brings the message of peace, right? For the sake of the bigger picture, the
Right.
long projected results and how things can turn around in the right direction. So none of us are wearing orange, right? So none of us are wearing orange. And so, Tiffany, pick back to that space of, and then I got a couple of questions that I want to ask to the two of you. Picking back to this whole, what are those things that you're doing, the boot thing? What are those boots things? Because
The rebound boots.
you talk, because one of the statements that I made, because like I said before, I like to take a few moments before we go live and go into the topic. And one of the things that really resonate with me is I can't do things the way that other people do. I'm not the one to over practice a speech. I'm going to identify my major points, and I pretty much, for the most part, speak from inspiration based around those points. That's how
Mhm.
I feel authentic when I show up to speak. One of the biggest things about overcoming procrastination and overcoming, the negative mindset associated with working out, or the negative mindset towards having a disciplined life, is finding things that are valued, that you can be inspired, that you get excited about. And when I
Yeah.
see you on those daggone boot things, you look so like you're having a ball, and you look like you're having so much fun. It makes me want to do it. It's one of the things that people should be doing when they're thinking about getting physically fit, when they're thinking about living a healthy lifestyle. They got to find the things that are going to be fun and exciting. They're out there because
Right.
I see foods like you did some kind of, you have recipes in your magazine, Phoenix Fitness Fanatics. That, man, when I look at those recipes with the beets and everything else, I'm like, my God, these are amazing recipes. So today, with the technology of us having social media, having all this access to information, there's no reason why we cannot have a fun, fulfilling, and enjoyable life, getting ourselves fixed and in alignment with a healthier path, and an enjoyable path. So talk about us about those fit boots.
Well, it doesn't have to be hard either. You know what I'm saying? You can start baby steps. I ended up being introduced to these fit boots because I had an injury that kind of took me out, and I couldn't have the discipline of being in the gym, weightlifting, and doing my regular routine because I had sciatica, and later found out that it was degenerative disc disease. I didn't let that stop me though. Some people will be like, oh my gosh, you know what? Now I've got this injury and I'm just going to sit down. I'm just going to coddle myself. No, I decided to go out there and figure out something else I could do to continue to keep myself going, because again, you got to move. So I'm looking on social media, and I happen to see this guy jumping around on these boots, and I'm like, what are those? Because he looks really happy, just like you just said right now, like how I look so happy in him. He looked really happy, and he's jump roping, he's doing all this stuff, and I'm like, wow, I gotta get some of those. And at first I'm like, well, let me do a little more research, because I don't know if I can do that because of my back. And then when I found out that they took 80% of the impact off of all my joints, including my back, I'm like, I'm there. I'm there. So got a pair of them, and I just absolutely, they make me feel like a kid again. That's what you have to do. You have to find things that really bring that inner child out again when it
Yeah,
comes to working out. If you like weightlifting, cool. Get out there, weightlift, do your thing. Some people are like, nah, I don't want to weightlift, but there's so many other things you can do to get your muscles toned and get your body all nice and tight without doing some of the things that you think. So it's just finding a community. It is really about the community and the people that you put yourself around. That's how I did it. And I have a jump boot community now. I go out, every weekend and we're jumping around to music and we're salsa dancing. Do y'all know I am probably the most rhythmless uh, woman of color that you will meet? Okay, I'm just gonna say it. My husband tells me all the time, but in them boots, when I'm dancing, I hit every doggone beat.
I see you love dancing with those things on.
They're amazing. They're amazing. But yeah, it's all about just finding something that lights up your heart. Even when you're finding things to eat. I don't necessarily, I didn't necessarily like beets before. When you mentioned beets, someone online had posted baked beets, and I said, let me try that. And now they're my favorite thing to eat.
Oh my
You
God.
know, you just have to, again, you have to just experiment with things. And even if it sounds funny, or people might be like, ugh, why are you doing it that way? Don't worry about what anybody says. Do it. Just do it. And because it lights up your heart, and as long as it's not hurting you, just go do it.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. And I agree with you. You're going to have so many people, the minute you decide to do something that works for you, that it's automatic that they're going to come out of the woodwork and say, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Are you sure you should be doing? I don't know if that's healthy for you. Got got a hold of a little water here that wasn't the greatest. And got sick Mother's Day week. I had to literally put out the message that said, hey, I'm okay. It's just a little water, a little contaminated. It is not the end of the world, and I do not have to return to the US. You know what I mean? So automatically, it's like, bolt, give up what you were going to do and, go back to the safe zone.
Right.
It's immediately. But that's why I will say over and over again, your why must make you high. It must make you
Absolutely.
high enough that no matter what anyone else has to say, that you will stick to your guns with it. Because if that value point is not high enough, you'll give up. If it's not important enough to you, you are going to eventually walk away from it. And
Right.
it has to be, it can be important. Me as a leader, I work with people day and night, and trust me, day and night. I want the best for all of them. I want their absolute dreams. Every vision that they shared with me, I want it to come true for them. One thing I learned from my mom and over time is that you cannot you cannot make people do anything. You can hope for them all you want to, but they have to want it themselves. And I'll even give you a Bible quote, because thank you, Holy Spirit, because it keeps coming back to me. Listen, uh, you can want all day long. I can lead you to the water, but I can't make you drink. Anytime Christ healed anyone, he always said it was not his faith, it was their faith. It was because they believed. We have got to believe in what it is that we want, and we will have to want it bad enough
Right.
that because we believe the way we believe, we receive the way we receive. And it's so important because once that good thing comes, someone is always going to come along to kind of persuade you away from that. Nathaniel, we are on the top of the half hour. I'm going to let you close us out. What are you sitting over there pondering and thinking? Share with us.
I'm
Continue to be
I'm
transparent.
I'm just taking in the conversation. I think sometimes people tune in and they think because we are the experts that everything is perfect for us,
Mm,
and that is so untrue.
right.
Um, so participating in this forum um, as a teacher, I also am a student where I'm learning from other panelists. So sometimes I get consumed in what's being said and thinking about the lessons that or the message that's being delivered from the other panelists and just re-examining how does that apply to where I am in my life and what's going on right now. So that's kind of what was going on. I'm thinking, I'm listening to this and I'm boots. What kind of boots?
Yes, she is. She is line dancing with those boots on. I saw her. I was like, check her. Every
They're
time.
fit boots, Nate. They're called fit boots. I'll send you a link so you can check them out because they're
Yeah,
really, really awesome.
because I need to do some jump rope with boots on there.
Yeah,
You do. Well, it's rebounding. So, and when you're on a rebounder, like when you go on those little trampolines, those rebounders, they help the lymphatic system to
Yeah,
drain. They are doing so much to the body. I mean, it's 25% more calories being burned on these boots as well. So,
yeah.
man,
And
everybody don't.
I just leave for thought for folks out there. Just get engaged. You
Yeah.
got to stop being a spectator. Get engaged. Play the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know what? I'll give a shout out to those who came for the last 3 years to the Dominican Republic, whether it was Own It Unapologetic, whether it was Unleashed, or this year just Own It X, because many of them did not have their passports the first year that they came. That was them engaging. And it was like 20 to 30 of you guys the first year. And then the second year, I think it was like 40, if not more, that came last year. This year it was a little smaller, it was just 25, but it was nice. But we only had 25 US, but we had another 30 Dominican Republic. So that was really nice. So we really, and that was moving people from spectatorship to involvement. And that was a beautiful thing. We honored about 5 businesses here and leaders here with proclamations from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, which is the home state of Own It magazine and publishing. And that was done in partnership with the Spirit of a Dove Foundation. So getting people, that's exactly what it is. It's about it's your life. Own it. Own it. That means to get from watching to doing, from contemplating to taking action. And so, yeah, Nathaniel, love it. I love being in this forum with all of you guys, and we have been together for quite some years, and so it really feels good. And just to the audience, as we close out, Nathaniel is with us from Thailand.
Yeah.
And Tiffany is here with us from California, and I'm here in the Dominican Republic. So we have been around the world today. And so I just want to say thank you two so very much for not taking it, counting it robbery to be with us today, and to share the importance of the art of self-discipline. Love you guys. We are out. Have an amazing week. We're at the top of the week. Have an amazing and incredible week, and we'll see you next Monday.